especially when they're really good little really toes. Yeah, it's fun to talk to babies. Okay, well, let's get started. I like you.
I like you too.
I'm Wes.
I'm Hannah.
And this is the Green Screen. And today we have a third guest, our third born son. He is a beautiful baby who is, how many weeks is he at now?
He is 2.5 months.
2.5 months, so that would be 10 weeks. He's a 10-week-old baby. And he's so cute. And like every other parent out there, anybody who comes in contact with babies, we talk to him like we're stupid. He's so cutie-fruity, you can baby. Now you were telling me something about it yesterday, where the reason why people talk to their babies in such a high-pitched sounding voice.
Yeah, it actually helps them learn language faster. So if you elongate your syllables, then it helps them to hear them better. And talking it at a really high-pitched frequency cues them into the excitement level, so they want to pay attention. Same thing we do with puppies. Like,
interesting.
Oh my gosh, you're a cute puppy.
So what you're saying is, if you want to discipline your kid and you really want to get the point across, you really need to, squeak like Mickey Mouse. Hey, over here! I'm gonna beat the crap out of you! Do you understand what I'm saying? And then the kid's gonna get it. They're like, oh, I understand better now.
I can hear clearly now.
It all makes sense. It's like, oh. So give it a shot, people. So what are we talking about today?
So we are talking about a serious topic today. Today we're going to be talking about abortion. And I think this is a really important topic because people aren't educated on it in school the way they used to be. I actually found out a few weeks ago that a long time ago we actually did educate students about abortions in school, like with pictures of what it looked like, what it was, what a baby was at different stages. We don't really do that anymore, and there's a lot more secrecy about it, and I think that really aids the abortion industry. So we're going to talk about it.
Okay, so where do we start?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, there are 4 basic major categories of abortions. And I just wanted to go through them.
Why don't you just go, rattle them off real fast?
Yeah, so the first one is a medical abortion. That's where you take mifepristone. And you can do that up to, I believe it's, 10 weeks. And so during your first trimester, that's the major one. Okay. Following that, as the baby gets a little bit more developed, they do something called vacuum aspiration, which is where they go in and they literally suck the baby and the parts of the baby go into the vacuum. All right. Following that, we have your D&E abortion, which is dilation and evacuation. And that is where they actually go in, and it's really awful, but they actually tear off the limbs of the baby piece by piece.
That's horrible.
And then the last thing they do is they crush the skull. Right.
So why do they call it dilation then? Like, what is it? How does that term go into the procedure exactly? They're dilating the uterus?
They dilate you to go into you. Oh. And then they evacuate. What that means is they pull out the baby limb by limb, piece by piece.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And
what is the range that they do that at?
So that one is after 14 weeks up until whatever your state allows as the maximum. So, they'll do that as late as your state allows.
Okay, what's next?
And also the last one is called an induction abortion, and this is a really, really awful process. It's also called a saline abortion.
Oh, no.
And this is where they actually inject you with a saline solution or a different type of solution that will literally burn the skin off your child. And
why do they have to do that?
Well, at that point, it's a very well-formed baby. It's a large baby. Many times actually able to survive outside the womb if given the proper medical treatment. And so at that point, it's hard to tear them apart because they're big. And so they literally burn them alive inside of you, and then you deliver the baby just like you would deliver a live child, only your child is dead. and it's covered with horrible burns.
Oh, that's horrific.
And it is horrific, and people don't know that's what's going on anymore.
You know, make it unrecognizable when it comes out or something, or so that you don't.
I mean, it's still very recognizable as a child.
Well, you got pictures for that. We'll look at that stuff later, I guess.
Yeah, and first of all, I think we should start with the youngest one, with the medical abortion. That's the most common, and I think a lot of people don't actually know what that is.
Okay.
I've heard stories of girls where they go in and they take a medicine, the mifepristone, whatever pill that is, and then they go home and they're thinking it's just a clump of cells, you know, it's not a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they see come out of them clearly resembles a child.
Yeah.
And it's very traumatic for them because they weren't given the proper information. So I want to show you some pictures, and I just want to give a quick overview of what a child looks like at different stages. So again, this happens up until 10 weeks. This one is not 10 weeks. This is 7 weeks.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly small child.
So this is what they would do with the medicinal abortion.
Yeah, this is a medicine that will cause your body to basically reject the child, so the child won't continue to grow, and it will eventually just drop out of you. And you can see even at 7 weeks, incredibly young. Some people don't even know they're pregnant at this stage.
Yeah.
You already have the arms and the legs. You can see a little head forming.
Yeah.
You can see his little eye. This is a child that was unfortunately miscarried that we're looking at.
Oh yeah.
But it really shows you their tiny little body even at 7 weeks. And again, girls aren't shown pictures like this.
Yeah, well, but they see that when it comes out. You know?
Until they get home and it comes out.
That can be really traumatizing, I imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, that can happen up until 10 weeks. This is a picture of a 10-week-old. Very, very clearly a child. You're looking at tiny fingers.
So this is when they start the what was it called? The vacuum suction one? Just the one where they just vacuum it?
So at 10 weeks, you are reaching the end of the medical abortion timeline. Vacuum aspiration, they can do up until 16 weeks.
Okay, so...
And it's a dreadful process because you see the child just slowly being vacuumed away, and the child in many cases will struggle against the vacuum. Because even at a very small age, they have a desire to live and to be safe.
Terrible.
If you want more information on any of these processes, I think a really good tool is Healthline.com. It's going to tell you, it's a very neutral source, it just tells you exactly what it is, and it tells you when it happens. And what really struck me, though, when I was reading about this, is it describes it as gentle suction.
Oh. That's like the idea of, you know, when you're about to get a shot, they say it's just going to be a little prick kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a psychology game at that point where you're trying to console the individual, you know, make them feel like, oh, this isn't going to be that bad. But, you know. Which
may be true for the woman, I don't know, but it certainly isn't true for the child. You're literally, you know, sucking away their limbs and their spine and their head. We just looked at a 10-week-old. Let's move forward a little bit. Let's look, because again, this vacuum aspiration extends beyond that.
Well, yeah, okay.
So it goes up to 16 weeks. So this is a 15-week-old child.
Oh my goodness! Look at all the bones that it's already started to develop.
So yeah, it's very thin because it hasn't put on the fat yet. But you can see all of the arms, legs, fingers are very, very well defined.
So just a couple weeks after this is where they'll start that dilation and evacuation.
So that
you can't imagine it being much different from that.
Dilation and evacuation actually starts a little earlier. It starts at 14 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So there is a little bit of overlap.
So you can
there.
sort of, I see. Okay.
So yeah, that child that we just looked at in America today could be vacuumed, like we just talked about, or they could go in and they could literally pull off individual limbs.
Okay. Yeah. Please, I'm disturbed by all this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disturbing. It is deeply disturbing because we think of little guys like this. This is our son. And, even if they get a diaper rash, we're really, really upset because, they're precious and we care about them. And so to imagine, his limbs being torn off or his skull being crushed, it's
don't even do that, I'm the kid's dad. I don't even think about that kind of thing with him, but, it's happening today. Probably somewhere in some clinic. It's happening right now. It's an essential service, so.
And these late-term abortions happen at a higher rate with younger people.
Yeah, so the younger you are, the more likely you are to get this kind of... Why is that happens?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. So a younger person, so like a 14-year-old is much more likely to have one of these D&E or one of these saline abortions. And I think that's probably because they either don't admit they're pregnant or they try to hide the pregnancy for a while. And obviously, there comes a point when you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Also, being in the valley of decision and deciding what you want to do there.
Yeah, because there's less, certainty in your life, so you can, I feel like when women are older and they want to do these kinds of things, it's a snap decision because they already have some expectations of what their life is doing, where they're supposed to be going, and whether or not this is going to be an impasse in their life or not.
Yeah.
So they can make that decision much more rapidly. Therefore, have a, I guess you could say, earlier procedure.
And it is statistically usually an economic or life stage decision. So people make a lot of hype about the rape cases, which are less than 1%. They make a lot of hype about what if the mother has diabetes, or they try to reach for these various very, very small percentages. But that's not usually why people get abortions. People usually get abortions because it will interfere with what they believe their future money will look like. So is this going to interfere with my degree?
Yeah.
And also, if you're younger, do I want to commit to being a mother? Do I want to commit to probably a boyfriend? So it's... the lives that are being taken are usually being taken out of convenience.
Yeah. And, there are those situations where she shortly highlighted, rape, and other people also throw incest into this category. And I don't understand. I don't think you can justify, though. It would be taking the life of the baby because, there was harm done to you. If we apply that in almost any other instance, it comes off as completely absurd. So let's say that a bank is robbed, and so a lot of money is taken out of the vault. So in order to replenish that money, in order to refill the bank's stocks, they have to extort money out of all of their clients. Or they have to cheat all of their clients in order to fill up the money after losing robbery. We would never say that is an okay thing. We just happen to make the exception culturally for this one rule. And, I'm kind of disappointed because this is something that conservatives won't claim. They won't aim for this spot. They'll say, well, we do, incest and rape, those are exceptions. I'm like, I don't think they are. I think if you're going to remain completely consistent, you really can't say that they are. So,
yeah. That's very true because after the rape, when a mother is pregnant, there are two innocent parties. One is the mother, and the other is the child. So punish the rapist, but don't punish the innocent party.
Yeah. He's so cute.
And I've known a number of people that have that's been their backstory. my mother was raped and here I am.
Yeah.
And they're equally wonderful and valid as human beings, and it's not their fault what happened.
Yeah.
And I know in a lot of
Excuse me.
cases the mother may not be in the best position to raise a child at that moment.
Yeah.
And I think something that we're also not educated well on is just the overwhelming number of couples in America who are qualified to adopt and want to adopt a baby, and there aren't enough babies. So if you're worried, my baby won't get adopted, there's going to be no one to love my baby, it's just not true.
Yeah, there's you said before that there's like a huge desire for infant babies in terms of, you know, parents who are looking to adopt. It's like the kids as they get older are the ones that we have a harder time getting adoption if they go
The
into
closer
foster
you get
care.
to your teenage years, the harder it gets.
Yeah, so like tons of people want to adopt
It's
babies
getting quite
because
cute.
they love babies.
They do.
You know, they're the most innocent things. And you know, it's kind of sad to see that human nature in our culture has flipped almost to this degree where, you know, it's not the innocent that has to be protected, it's the offenders. So if you get an abortion, for example, because you're raped, well, you're protecting the rapist to a degree, and you're killing the innocent. That's horrible.
Let's
And you know,
pause
if
real
it's
quick. I think he's getting hungry. Can we resume this?
yeah, we're gonna cut because this guy is getting hungry. We might need to put him down for a nap. So we're gonna say goodbye to him, and we will be back in just a second. And we're back. So, after we got rid of the boy, let's talk a bit about kind of how life was like for us, because we kind of had a bit of a surprise pregnancy ourselves, our very first one. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about the context there, Han?
So, our first child, we actually got pregnant while we were working in the Dominican Republic. We were working at an orphanage down there, and we had been there for about 3 months, I believe.
With that, at that time, we were there for that long before we got pregnant.
And we got pregnant, and there was no hospital close by. It wasn't entirely a surprise. We actually thought we were pregnant, and we weren't, and we were sad. And then we ended up getting pregnant. So, but we came back to the States, and I remember during that time it was just a really scary time because we didn't have a steady income yet, and we really felt like our backs were against a wall. You want to say, like, what did that feel
I mean, for me, it wasn't so much threatening because I was putting a lot of our trust in that God would be able to provide for us as we continue to follow Him. But we were starting up a business, a carpet cleaning business at the time, which, you know, if you're kind of new to this idea, it's not terribly hard to start up, at least in the location we were in. We were in Missouri at the time, and it wasn't too difficult to get it started up, but it was really difficult to get start getting business. And for quite a few months, we didn't make any money off of it. We were just pouring money that we had.
We racked up a lot of credit card debt.
Yeah, we went into quite a bit of debt trying to get it started up, but over time, the Lord eventually did bless it. We did start getting clients, and you know, we worked like dogs. I remember going to driving hours out to put up flyers in neighborhoods. I remember you know, doing some cold calling. I remember
That was fun.
Yeah, it was really awkward. I remember, it's like, hey, you need your carpets cleaned, and it's
Nope. Okay.
you know, there's a bit of an innuendo that can be taken there. And it wasn't not a good business to do cold calling in, guys. And you know, we had other companies who would call us. There was one company who called us and was, you know, threatening us to get out of town.
We weren't even making any money.
we hadn't even started anything yet. But eventually we did, you know, pick up some people who we knew who gave us some work to do, and then eventually, you know, we started getting ads rolling and online, and that started working out for us. And it took a while, but during those times, you know, it's pretty threatening. You know, you feel scared, especially since you're not relying on anybody else. It's just the two of us. We're relying on our own incomes. It was a scary time, yeah.
I looked up our tax returns from that first year,
Oh.
and after all our business deductions, we made a whopping $13,000 that year.
Yeah.
So we were really poor.
Wow.
So we know what it's like to go to the grocery store and have like $60 and be like, so how many noodles are we buying this week?
A lot of noodles this week. A lot of noodles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
But I think that is a huge reason why people often feel pressured towards getting abortions, is because they feel like their back is against a wall.
And it's just another mouth to feed sort of thing, you know. They don't see all the benefits that come from it, like all the love that you get from the baby when it comes out, and you know, all the joy that they bring to your life. Like it's such a boost, and it forces you to grow up sooner, you know. Like you can't just sit around and, you know, carry on with a reckless sex life. You can't, you know, there are a lot of irresponsible behaviors that you have to give up for more traditionally responsible behaviors. And in a lot of ways, having the baby makes you good. It teaches you better behaviors, and getting the abortion just reinforces your bad ones.
And I remember during that time very clearly, you asked me a question that kind of caught me off guard. You asked me if I would ever consider having an abortion because you were scared that I would. And it really struck me because I never even considered that, for one thing, and secondarily, it struck me that, you know, I'm married to you, and you have no control whatsoever whether or not this child that you love lives or dies.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's pretty incredible in America that there can be a loving father that loses a child in some very horrific ways.
Yeah.
Because...
Which we haven't even shown you guys what I think is the worst one. Okay, so we've been sort of saving this up for a little while. It's the final kind of abortion mode that people have to take outside of giving birth and then killing it after birth. So this is what you were referring to as a saline abortion, and it's utterly horrific. Go ahead and explain it.
So again, this happens with much more frequency when the person is younger. So 14-year-olds, this is much more common with. And it's really horrific. So you have a child. In many cases, they are formed enough that they could have survived outside the womb.
Oh, yeah.
And because we can save children incredibly young these days. Like, you hear of 21-week-old infants surviving. It's incredible.
Well, have you heard of like this argument where, like, you know, the mother's life is in danger or whatever, so, you know, you either have to kill the baby or kill the woman?
So that comes up a lot as an argument for abortion. But what isn't discussed as much, because it's kind of a counter-argument, is that most of those really high-risk situations do come up in the third trimester. Do you know what else comes up in the third trimester?
Birth?
The ability to deliver early.
Yeah.
So even we can deliver babies in the second trimester even.
Yeah.
So most of your preeclampsia, your diabetes that's getting out of control, those are typically third trimester things. And most people don't realize that at that point, it's not ideal, but your child has a very good chance at life delivered early. And many doctors will, if you're in, you know, a medical condition that would require
or
that.
if you're in an institution that will acknowledge the life of the child. So, yeah. So let's look at this thing. What do we got?
So this is a child who was aborted via saline abortion. It's horrific to look at.
Like, that looks like a sleeping baby to me. Like, when I look at it, that looks like, even like our 2-month-old, he looks like that when he sleeps. Like how his eyes are closed. That's horrible. Okay.
And again, with saline abortion, you give birth to the baby like you would if the baby was alive. So it's also called an induction abortion because they induce you kind of like they would induce you if you were 9 months pregnant and you weren't having the baby right away and they wanted to help get things started. But the difference is this child has been burning alive inside of your womb for a long period of time, and you can just see the skin is covered in burns. It burns off their skin and just slowly kills them as they burn alive.
That's horrific. I mean, if you did that to a dog, you would go to jail. So
yes,
yeah.
yes,
And
you would.
the doctors are the ones who are doing this. So if we're advocating for people who really are responsible and really should be imprisoned for it, it's those people, because they know exactly what this is. They know exactly what they're doing. They've manipulated the culture to a place where, you know, they feel like they can get away with it.
But if you think about it, you can't really even shoot a puppy, can you? Much less watch it burn alive for hours.
Yeah, I mean, one is just like infinitely more horrific than the other, I suppose. But, you know, it's still a loss of a life that was important.
And so it is horrific. And what's even more horrific about the saline abortion is it happens so late that if you had just induced the live baby, the baby would have had a chance to survive, have a happy life, probably be adopted into a family that loves that child,
Or who
and
knows,
has been wanting
you know,
a child.
maybe it comes out and you fall in love with it yourself, and you're willing to make the necessary sacrifices. You're willing to grow up and take care of this thing, no matter what conceptual origins it has. You know, it's because it's still something that loves you indefinitely, and we'll be thankful. It will.
And the abortion industry really thrives on ignorance. So the fact that we no longer show people that may indeed have these abortions. So these 14-year-olds, we're sheltering them from these pictures when they are the very ones who are the most likely to potentially have one of these abortions.
Yeah.
So you're sheltering them, but you're not sheltering that precious little child, because it's so much more likely that that child will get burned alive if nobody really knows what's going on. Because the thing about being 14 is you tend to trust people who are older. You tend to trust medical professionals and your parents who may be pushing you in a direction. And so if we're not educating people at this younger age, when it's more likely that they'll have a late-term abortion, then this will just continue.
And beyond educating, we need to get to a place where we are eliminating this cultural desire for this self-indulgence, because it is a self-indulgence, this. And, you know, you give up something, you give up the innocent life for yourself, whereas that's the opposite of sacrifice. Sacrifice is giving up yourself for something else.
Well, that's the irony, is like, as women and mothers, so many times we'll say, like, you know, if I ever saw a child in the middle of a highway, I would rush into that highway and save that child. And you know that there's a risk to your life to do that. And I think, especially as women, we do have a deep internalized value to take care of children and to take care of one smaller than us. And if you talk to pretty much any woman, she would say, you know, if I see a child in the middle of the highway, I'm running out there to the highway, and I'm going to grab that child, and I'm going to save that child, and I don't care if it's dangerous. And so there is that side of us that's very, very tough, like kind of like Mama Bear, that will basically take out anything, you know, if a kid's about to get hurt. And I think what really has to happen is we have to reawaken that side of us when it comes to our unborn children, because we do care. It's just like, it's almost like we've fallen asleep and we don't realize what's happening.
It sounds like another opportunity for us to wake up within our culture and to encourage our culture to wake up, because the only reason this thing gets out as big as it does is because there is a cultural establishment that wants you to think this way. And your natural inclinations are to think the opposite. So they have to train you from a young age, and through other forms of medium, through celebrity, through quote-unquote news. So we all need to wake up so that we can actually make a serious shift in this, back to what is natural for humans to do, what is natural for almost any animal to do, really. So, any final thoughts from you, Hannah?
Yeah, I just hope that as women especially, that we go forward and we live up to what we desire to be, to what we aspire to be. And that we can become the people that we dream of ourselves as when we're dreaming of rescuing children.
Yeah. So getting back to that place of wanting to protect the innocent life that is being not just living in the world but brought into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, guys, I think we're going to leave it there. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And what we're going to do is whenever we get enough questions to address out of these videos, we'll do a Q&A video with me and Hannah, and we'll read those and we'll answer them the best we can. So, yeah, if you like this content, like, subscribe, check us out later on other videos, and we'll catch you next time. See ya. Cool. So, that was I think that was a really powerful one without as much.
You know, I thought the cuties one was hard, but this one I think was even harder.
It really was.
At least in some areas it was.
Yeah, I mean, just having to contend with what it actually looks like.